She visited 4 regions affected by the conflict: Amhara, Tigray, Afar and Somali. And while the UN continues to press for unimpeded humanitarian access that meets the needs on the ground, she also called for justice and accountability as part of the country's national dialogue.
I think without a shadow of a doubt, justice and accountability has to be had. I think that's very much part of up front centre of the national dialogues. They cannot achieve any lasting peace without reconciling and being held to account the atrocities across the country. And so when I say no finger pointing in that region, there is everyone to blame if you want to blame them. They were committed across the borders and the regions that were there, and accountability must be had.
Several UN staff have been detained or expelled from the country, with authorities accusing them of meddling in their internal affairs, an accusation the UN has rejected, but at least 3 staff members remain in detention.
I did speak with the leadership about UN staff. UN staff have stayed and delivered in the most difficult of circumstances. They are still there. We still have 3 that have not been released, and so we did speak to the leadership about that and the urgency on 2 levels. First, to speak to our partnership, because what they say matters to the people on the ground and how they react to our people who are there, saving lives and contributing to the livelihoods, particularly where so many women have suffered. And the response was that they were doing the best that they could, and they were continuing to release our people, but they were being investigated. So we've pushed and we continue pushing daily.
She acknowledged witnessing famine firsthand in a Horn of Africa region facing the driest conditions recorded since 1981. But it was the unbearable conditions that have faced women and girls that struck the loudest chord with the UN's number 2.
Ethiopian women writ large were affected in a way that is unimaginable. In your worst nightmares, you cannot imagine what has happened to the women in Ethiopia. And this is not by region, this is across the regions. I listened to women who had, I don't know how they managed to tell us again the stories of the atrocities that were committed against them, whether were gang rapes or rapes of women that had just come out of a cesarean section or had these rapes in front of their children. I don't know how they managed to tell us that. In some cases, we found not just us in a really bad place, swallowing hard and holding back the tears, but even the translators could not do it. So it is a tragedy. It is going to be a lifelong healing process for many, many women and children.
She warned that, given the context, Ethiopian leadership and the international community would need to lean heavily forward, particularly as it relates to the inclusiveness of the country's national dialogue, with concern that certain groups would be excluded, including the Tigray People's Liberation Front.
I believe everyone should be included. This is a conflict between the Ethiopian people in whatever guise that they come, and so they need to find a way to include every voice.
The UN continues to call for a fully fledged cessation of hostilities to a conflict that began in November 2020 between the federal government and the TPLF that has drawn in foreign forces, left thousands dead, and forced millions from their homes. Sherman Brycepease, SABC News, New York.